It's time for The Shelf. Whangārei District Libraries Radio on Beagle Radio. Oh.
Kia ora katoa. Kia ora katoa, and welcome to The Shelf, a radio show by Whangārei District Libraries on Beagle Radio 88.1 FM. Thanks for tuning in, and if you're listening to our podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm your DJ Librarian, Karlie, and I'm joined here by fellow DJ Librarian, Andy.
You can call me DJ Andy for now. I'm an Outreach Services Librarian. I'm happy to be here in the studio.
We thought we'd introduce ourselves a little bit. Andy, do you want to go first and tell us a little bit about what you do in the library?
I do a number of things at the moment. For instance, I'm doing this radio show here. I also do book recommendations on Facebook. In addition to that, I've been doing Lego Club since I started. It is one of my favorite events, probably. Activities, we call it. And I also work at the branch library, so if you go to the branches, you have probably seen me there.
You do such a good job. And I'm Karlie again, and I work mostly behind the scenes. I'm a technical services librarian. I do some cataloguing and some acquisitions, which is sorting out the new books, and also I do some desk shifts with the customers. Cool. And we might as well kick it off with a rundown of what's happening in your library coming up. First off, this weekend we have Scrabble Club 500, which is a free drop-in event. Basically from 10 till midday-ish, you can drop in, pick up the Scrabble boards at our information desk and play with your friends or whoever wants to challenge you.
And next up, we have the Heritage Talk with Whangārei High School. Let me just see the exact title. Yes, Heritage Talk, Whangārei High School. It will be Wednesday, the 27th of September, 11 a.m. Don Goodall will present a lighthearted romp with fascinating and humorous tales about events and personalities at Whangārei High School from the 1920s to 1960s. And it was co-ed until 1947, when it was split into Boys High and Girls High.
That's gonna be a really interesting presentation. He's done presentations for us before, and he's amazing. Such a wealth of knowledge that he has. We also have, every once in a while, we have presentations for the public about what we have on our e-services side of things. So if you're not too sure about e-books or e-audio books, our movie streaming sites, keep an eye on our website. The next one coming up is all about our streaming movies and streaming ebooks online. So we have, if you don't know, we have a movie streaming site called Beamer Film, which you have access to with your library card. All you need is your library card and PIN number. And then we've got e-audiobooks with Audiobook Cloud and children's ebooks with Tumblebook Library, also really great resources. So if you're interested, but you're a bit hesitant and unsure about what the e-streaming sites, how they work and what they have, come along. It's free, and just register online through our website.
And next up, keep an eye out on our website and social media in the coming weeks, because it will be the school holiday program, which I will be involved in.
Me too. That's going to be so much fun. There's crafts involved. There's someone's organising for the teens a hologram DIY thing, and we've got for the children a special guest, which we'll talk about later. And yeah, some story time, etc. So that's bound to be super fun.
Super fun. And just a reminder, there is a JP service available at Central Library on Saturday mornings. And bit more of a new thing that we do. It's also available at Tikipunga Library on Wednesday. So if you need to see a Justice of the Peace, remember, Saturday, Central, Wednesday, Tikipunga, both in the morning.
Yep, and there's always a little bit of a queue of people, so
Yes.
just drop in though, and we're always happy to help if you need to print or scan documents that you need them to sign. Just ask your librarian nearby, and we're happy to help. Cool. So also, it's a bit of a celebration this week. We have, it's the Māori Language Week, Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori, and this is just a celebration annually, a chance to celebrate Te Reo Māori. It's been an annual celebration in New Zealand since 1975, and Te Reo is now one of the 2 official languages of New Zealand alongside the New Zealand Sign Language, so it's really a good opportunity to revive this language that's had, just celebrate it and honor it, basically, and its rich history. And what better way to honor it than having a bit of a korero in your library. We have some library words in Te Reo that we've popped up on our Facebook page. I might as well read a few out to you today. Wahi Pātai is an information desk. Puka Puka is a book. Wahi Whakahoki Puka Puka is returns. Korero Pakiho is new fiction. Rorohiko is computer. And Purereta is printer. So we do have the visual representations of these words on our Facebook page and our Instagram. Cool. And which leads us nicely into our first song.
So this song is called Haere Mai, Haere Mai, and it's by Johnny Cooper. And it's just a lovely tune. It sounds like country from the 1950s, but that is exactly what it is. Enjoy.
Haere mai, everything is kapai. You're here at last. You're really here at last. Haere mai, not a cloud in the sky. To coin a phrase, this is the day of days. You're welcome as the sunshine. You're welcome as a king. By Karlie, this is one time we'll really have a fling. Haere mai, everything is kapai throughout the land. We want to shake your hand. Haere mai, we're proud of you, that's why. Haere mai, everything is kapai. You're here at last. You're really here at last. Haere mai, not a cloud in the sky. To coin a phrase, this is the day of days. You're welcome as the sunshine. you're welcome as a king. By Karlie, this is one time we'll really have a fling. High am I. Everything is Keyte throughout the land. We want to shake your hand. High am I. High am I.
And that was Johnny Cooper singing High Mai. You are listening to The Shelf, a radio show for Whangārei District Libraries on Beagle Radio 88.1. For those who are just recently tuning in, my name is Andy. I work at Whangārei District Libraries.
And I'm Karlie. I also work at Whangārei District Libraries, and it's a great place to be. Up next, we have an interview with our wonderful children's librarian, Mrs. Keyte, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her role in the library. So let's have a listen. Kia ora koutou. I'm here with the wonderful Mrs. Keyte, our children's librarian. She's going to tell us all about what we can expect at the next school holiday program, but first, let's get introduced. So, Mrs. Keyte, can you tell us a little bit about your job as a children's librarian?
Oh, well, I think that I'm really lucky because I have the best job in the whole library. So a little bit of background about me. I've just spent 10 years in primary school libraries in Whangārei, and this was kind of the next step. So I moved here in February. So it's still new to me, but I just love it. Yeah, so it's just wonderful to be around children and around children's books. I think everybody, whatever age they are, should be reading children's books because they are just so fabulous, and we just are so lucky with the range that we can buy. Yeah, it's just such a great job. I love it.
Yeah. And what's your favourite thing about working in the library?
Oh, well, that is a tricky one because I love doing the preschool fun times on a Thursday. That's super fun, dancing and singing with all my little under fours. That is super fun. And that was a surprise to me because I didn't know if I would like that, and I really do. I love buying books, and so that's really exciting, and I love when the books are unpacked and I get to look through what I've bought, and I get really excited and want to just sit and read them all, but I just have too much work to do all that. And I love it when I have a homeschool visit once a month. I love when they come in. I love when classes come in. I love when I go and visit schools. Really, I just love it all.
Yeah, there's a lot to love. Actually, what was your favourite book as a kid?
Oh, I have a couple of favourites. So, Anne of Green Gables, absolutely loved. Total classic. I just love the relationship between Anne and Diana, and of course Marilla. She's just so wonderful. And my favourite chapter in Anne of Green Gables is when Anne goes to Diana's house and they drink what they think is the cordial, but it's alcohol, and then Diana gets so drunk, and then she's banned from seeing Diana, and she's like, oh, my bosom friend. It's just wonderful. I just love that. So I've read it multiple times. I also, of course, love Charlotte's Web. Can't go past Charlotte's Web. And when I was about 9, my dad was my teacher, and he in year 5 and 6.
Wow.
And he read us The Machine Gunners, which is just such a glorious epic adventure World War II story.
Wow.
And it's just stayed with me. And I've read it again as an adult, and I loved it just as much. So
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Oh, it's so good. It's about these boys who are in England, and they find this aeroplane that's crashed, and then they find the actual German machine gunner still alive and hiding, and so they sneak supplies to him, and it's so good. It's just
that does sound pretty good.
Really adventurous, a great epic story.
Okay, cool. What have you read lately that you can recommend, maybe?
Oh, so one of the books that was nominated for the New Zealand Children's Book Awards, and I was a bit sad that it didn't win because I just fell in love with it from the first page, is Children of the Rush. So it's two characters, Michael and Atarangi, and they take alternate chapters, which is really nice. I like that style of writing.
Yeah.
And it's set in the gold mining times in New Zealand around Dunedin. And it's such a cool story. So Atarangi has a little bit of a magical power. She can sense and see and feel the vibrations of gold in the ground. And then Michael has a bit of a hard luck story. His mum has died, his dad's been beaten up, and it's just all terrible. They're poor, and then they sort of buddy up together, and then there are baddies in the story who are really mean and horrible and robbing people of all their gold, and they seek revenge on the baddies, and it's just so good. And I think last week or maybe 10 days ago the second part came out, so I'm really excited to read that.
Oh, that's exciting.
And,
yeah,
and it's really nice to support New Zealand writing.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Awesome. And another question, what advice would you have for a kid who finds reading maybe boring or difficult or just not their thing?
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with finding reading boring. It doesn't mean that you hate reading, it just means you haven't found the right book. That's all it means. So there are a couple of things I used to say to kids. One, get into audiobooks or into kids' podcasts. There are some really fantastic children's podcasts out there. I know there's a series, Rebel Girls, which was a really popular book a couple of years ago, and they have a podcast that goes with that. So if you like finding out about famous people, that's really cool. Audiobooks, Harry Potter narrated by Stephen Fry. I challenge you to not fall in love. It is just incredible, and I've listened to the audiobooks multiple times. They're like my comfort listening. Graphic novels. I know lots of mums and dads and teachers say graphic novels aren't reading, but really they are. And non-fiction. The thing that I love about non-fiction is you don't have to read from page 1 to 99. You can just pick one page in the middle if that's the thing that you're interested in. So find things that you're interested in, not things that your mum or your dad or your teacher think you should be reading. You need to find the love of reading for yourself and not get an adult to try and find that love of reading for you, because it's not going to work.
Oh, that's really good advice. Thank you. So switching gears, the library is absolutely buzzing with activity every school holiday. We have activities for both children and teens at Whangārei Central Library. The children's program is happening Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of the school holidays, both weeks, from 10 till 11, I believe. So what can we expect from the school holiday program this time around for the kids?
So every holidays, when I'm working with the kids, I always have discussions with them. What shall we do next holidays? Because it's your program at the end of the day. It's not mine. I just put the ideas together, but it's fun for you. And everybody voted to have space, like the solar system for week 1, and under the sea, so creatures of the deep for week 2. And I don't have it confirmed yet, but I'm crossing all my fingers and toes that we might, on the second week, we might have a special guest who will be coming for one of the days, so we won't be doing craft that day. If it's going to happen, it'll be on the second Wednesday of the holidays. I'm going to give you a hint. It's Billy B. Brown and the illustrator.
Ooh,
So
okay.
that's going to be confirmed. So, but hopefully that will work. And if
Fingers
it doesn't, we
crossed.
will just have an extra sea theme craft. So so we're going to be doing sharks and astronauts and all sorts of fun things.
Yeah, that sounds super fun. Could you just maybe describe the school holiday program in 3 words? It's a challenge.
I would say fun, fabulous, and fulfilling.
Woohoo!
How about that for an alliteration in the morning?
So good. Okay, so just a heads up for our listeners, we also have fun times for preschoolers when it's not school holidays, so during the term, and these happen at Tikipunga Library on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. and at Whangārei Central Library Wednesdays and Thursdays at the same time. So could you maybe tell us a little bit about what happens in those fantastic sessions?
Yeah, it's super fun. So we always have lots of singing and parachutes and shakers and musical things to shake about. You have to come and just want to dance and boogie and just have a good time. And then we have lots of stories as well, and often a puppet or a pop-up book or something super fun. So it's about 45 minutes, starts at 10, and all age groups under 5 are totally welcome. Super fun.
Cool, so come along for a little boogie and some story time.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much, Mrs. Keyte. Thank you for your time and your
you're
good
welcome.
advice and good recommendations, and we'll see you at the library.
Yay, excited.
That was our wonderful children's librarian, Mrs. Keyte. Thanks again, Mrs. Keyte. If you see her around the library, feel free to give her a wave and introduce yourself. She did briefly mention, she did a bit of a hint about what might be happening at our school holiday program to do with Billy B. Brown, the series by Sally Rippon, which I know all the kids love. I can confirm today that she's got the illustrator Aki Fukuoka coming in on one of those days. So keep an eye on our website to know what day exactly, and that's sure to be a lot of fun, and the kids are going to love it. And I'm going to throw it to Andy to introduce our next song.
Well, this is a song that I think is difficult to classify. It was released in 1971 by a little guy, not very little actually, named Baby Huey. The song is called Hard Times, and I'd say it's an early version of hip-hop, really. And the artist even, I think, performed at Woodstock. So that's where it all
Awesome.
started. Over to you.
Cool, let's go.
Cold, cold eyes upon me, they stare. People all around me, and they're all in fear. They don't seem to want me, but they won't admit I must be some kind of creature if they're having fears. From my party house, I'm afraid to come outside. Although I'm filled with love, I'm afraid they'll hurt my pride. So I play the part I feel they want of me, and I pull the shade so I won't see them seeing me. Having a hard time in this crazy town. Having a hard time, there's no love to be found. Having a hard time in this crazy town. Having a hard time, there's no love to be found. From my body house, I feel like me another familiar face, a creed and a race, a brother. But to my surprise, I find a man corrupt. Although he be my brother, he wants to hold me up. Having hard time in this crazy town. Having hard time, there's no love to be found. Having hard time in this crazy town. Having hard time, there's no love to be found. So many hard times. Sleeping on motel floors, knocking on my brother's door, eating I'm sick and tired of paying dues, baby. And I'm sick and tired of having so many hard times, baby. And from my body, hearts from my body.
And that was Baby Huey singing Hard Times. And sadly, the album was released posthumously in 1971. The album was produced by Curtis Mayfield, who carried the torch for him.
Wow.
And sadly, Baby Huey didn't get to see the effect he had on music. Yeah. But what a wonderful song.
Yeah. And if you have any song recommendations or feedback or compliments in general, feel free to email us at bark@beagleradio.co.nz.
But enough about music. Just to return to being on the shelf for just a moment, I'd like to talk about some new releases that I've noticed in the library. We have an amazing DVD collection,
Yes.
and I saw over the weekend a movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once. It won a lot of Oscars, and I think it even won, or it was nominated for almost as many Oscars as Lord of the Rings.
Whoa.
So that's a record breaker right there. And yes, I just randomly stumbled upon this film on the shelf at Central Library. But for another new release, I noticed in our catalog that we now have a book by an Irish author who I'd like to plug, named Sebastian Barry, and the book is called Old God's Time. I read a book by Sebastian Barry earlier this year called Days Without Ends, and it is just an epic tale of a person in the U.S. cavalry. He's in the notorious Native American Wars, and he's also in the Civil War. The book is riveting, it's harrowing,
Oh.
and I did not know, the reason I'm talking about this is because I didn't know about this author until I worked in a library. I had never heard of Sebastian Barry. And I also discovered another amazing Irish author, Roddy Doyle.
Roddy Doyle, yeah.
Yes, he wrote The Commitments, he wrote Love, A Star Called Henry. I've read a couple of his books, but I'm mentioning him because I had never heard of him. So if I have not heard of him, he's new to me. And guess who else I had never heard of? Terry Pratchett. I didn't know who he was. I had never heard of the man until I worked in a library, but now
Andy.
I know, blasphemous. But I've read 4 Discworld novels since hearing about him.
That's one of the benefits of working at the library. You get all these new recommendations, and often it's customers recommending books to me, I find.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we have little chats at the checkout counter all the
Yeah.
time. Well, just to step away from the hidden treasures in our fiction section, let's go upstairs to the nonfiction section.
Lots of treasures up there.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Upstairs, we have an enormous collection. And I'd like to talk about nonfiction for just a moment. Did you know that we have a room called the Northland Room? And it's an archive containing the history, the heritage of this town, this whole region even. And I spoke to a librarian named Mac about the...
Yay, Mac!
Yeah, I spoke to her about the Heritage Collection and the Northland Room. Mac has been a great mentor to me. She's the Heritage Librarian right now, so I'm just going to play this interview which I recorded with her. So we can just call this interview Mac and Me. Just opening the file right now. So this is an interview I did with Mac.
My name is Glenn MacDonald Spice, but in the library I get called Mac because we have a number of Glens. So I've decided to go with my nickname, which is important to me because I'm a MacDonald and MacDonalds like to retain their name. I'm the Heritage Librarian at Whangārei Libraries. Recently have that position. I've been there for 6 months.
Okay. Yeah, so we're here with Mac, the Heritage Librarian, Whangārei Libraries. And you assist with the Northland room, or rather, you practically manage it now.
Yes, it's my area of responsibility.
Tell me about the Northland room.
Well, the Northland Room has had an interesting history. I don't know all of it, but I know that there's a large amount of material in the Northland Room which was donated to us from a woman called Florence Keyte. She was a teacher and also a avid historian and collected masses of information about the Whangārei area. She was born in 1908 and died in 1998, and over that time she collected research material for the books that she wrote. We've got 16 exercise books full of her notes and scribblings. She collected 76 scrapbooks which have masses of clippings and photos and stories about the Whangārei area, and that forms like the foundation of the Northland Room, but there are lots and lots of other documents, donations, family histories and information specifically about the Whangārei area and the surrounds that we store and treasure for hopefully a very long time.
Excellent. How much of this collection has been digitized?
That's a bit of a challenge. It's easy to digitize it. It's hard to prepare the material so that people can access it easily. So we're working on it steadily over the years, and we have a digital collection which is called Recollect, which records, we've almost got to the last box of Florence Keyte's bits and pieces, but there is a lot more to come after that. And as well as the Recollect collection, the digital one, we've got our New Zealand room collection and a genealogy collection, which is also part of my responsibility. It contains books of all sorts of subjects to do with New Zealand, and we keep that as a repository for people doing research in the north. And the genealogy room, we keep microfilm of all our local newspapers that people can access as well.
Okay. And is there anything else you want the public to understand about the Heritage Collection at Whangārei Libraries?
I think it's important to know that it's there for a start. Lots of people don't know we have it.
Yeah.
And it's a treasure. It's unique to us. There's things there that nowhere else in New Zealand you'll find. And like gold and diamonds, it's going to take a while to dig it out. And if you go into the Northland Room, you'll know what I mean, because if you're looking for something about your family history, you might not want to think about looking at archaeological reports to find information about that, but it's tucked away in there. It's a living collection, and if people have got things that are unique to our area and they're wondering what to do with it, then I'd like to think that people would come and see us and say, is this worthwhile? Shall we store it for you in our collection?
Okay. So users can have their own information and archive.
Yes, you can be collected for the future generations to study.
Okay. And so what else can users gain from this service?
Well, I think that once you start digging into the history and the heritage that we have in our area, you start getting a connection with the places. I think in New Zealand, compared to places like Britain and Europe, our history is kind of invisible in some ways. Our historic spots can be a patch of grass or a rock, and it's hard to get connected with it. But if you start looking into the background and the stories, and you stand on that rock and you hear the story about the people that lived in that area, then you get a real appreciation of the richness of our heritage.
Okay. Typically, what do customers ask for in the Northland Room when they get in?
There's some fascinating questions that they ask. Some of them are absolutely impossible to find the answers for. Like, did my grandfather have a strawberry field somewhere in Whangārei? A lady wanted to know if she could use maps to print on a cushion, which is a novel idea, and apparently the business is doing really well.
Oh. Okay.
There's lots of interest in the maps. Actually, we've got maps that go way back in time, and they're just beautiful things on their own. And people come to search, obviously, for their family information and their history and their whakapapa. Lots of information we have available for that type of research as well.
Okay. There was also a heritage talk last week, and how did that go? Who was the speaker?
Oh, we had a really good talk from Jo Skirms, who's the ranger at Matakoi, Limestone Island.
Okay.
She talked us right through from the geological origins of the island, all the way up through Māori occupation, to the island being basically a giant limestone quarry.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a turbulent period for the poor island.
Mm-hmm.
It got set fire on a frequent basis with the buildings and the occupation there, and then after that it became a farm, and then after that it became what it is now, which is a nature reserve and a wildlife sanctuary, and is managed by a group that is the Friends of Matakoi Island.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting story of a little island that lots of people just take for granted.
I've been there, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's stunning.
It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. And I just want to know more about what you do outside of the library. I hear you are in a group that does medieval reenactment.
Yes. I seem to have been fit for my job.
Yes.
History is my personal passion and interest as well. As a McDonald, as I said, I've been raised by my family to be quite patriotic and to be distrustful of the English and not to mingle with the Campbells. And that particular, pull from my family has encouraged me to get involved with discovering my heritage, my historical roots. I've been part of a medieval group for a number of years, and basically what we do is get together and explore pre-1600 history in a practical way, and are actually camping, living, cooking in the same way as they would have done in those older times. It's kind of like all the good parts of the medieval period without all the bigotry, intolerance, and terrible medical care
and war. Yes.
Yeah, and experimenting and seeing how do we do what we want to do to have a good life, and how do we make the tools to make that happen.
Okay.
And just experiment with how to live that way.
So you're immersing yourself in the time period.
Yes, and it fascinates me. I'm sort of quite keen on earlier periods than the medieval period. I'm thinking like Iron Age or 600 AD.
Yeah.
That sort of fascinates me. And it's a chance to explore life like that the complicated simplicity of the Iron Age period just is fascinating.
Yeah, okay. And you've described to me before experimental archaeology. Can you tell us what that is?
Right. With an archaeological dig, they might come up with the remains of, say, a fire pit or a kiln or something like that. And with experimental archaeology, it's recreating what was found from the past and learning how it was done.
Okay.
So rebuilding a kiln using the same materials that they've discovered, the same shapes, the same equipment, and thinking, can it be done? How was it done?
Okay, so much like the medieval reenactment, but instead the Iron Age.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's my area of fascination, especially because of the Celtic connection with the Iron Age links between Europe and Scotland. So that's really been fascinating to me, my personal history, which is linked up to those places, to Scotland, and originally from Europe.
Yeah.
And finding out how it travelled.
Okay. What is something notable that you have discovered about your own historic roots, ancestral roots?
Well, my family has been traced back to my fourth great-grandfather, and can I tell you a little story that's kind of...
Definitely.
Back in 2017, I decided that I would plan a Celtic, I guess you'd call it a pilgrimage, and just trace back the culture that my family comes from, right back to as far as I could to its roots.
Yeah.
So I planned an 8-week tour, and I started off by sitting on my four great-grandfather's doorstep in an island called Easdale near the Hebrides in Scotland.
Yeah.
Started there and started tracing back the Celtic trail. And if you can imagine, there was one moment in this whole journey. I went to museums, I went to recreated Iron Age sites, and was studying the materials, the culture, and all the information I could. And I travelled a long way through Normandy, Belgium, Switzerland, and ended up in Austria.
Yeah.
And was looking at Salzburg at the Hallstatt
Yes.
excavations. It was fascinating because a lot of things that people can't find in other archaeological sites are preserved in the salt mines.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was just inspirational for me about getting a grip on everyday life in the Iron Age. And one moment was the most special, in that I was in Scotland, and I had a trip to the Scottish Cranach Centre. And I'll just describe it. You'll eventually understand what a cranach is.
Yeah.
But just imagine that I'm sitting on reindeer skins and I'm under a rough branch shelter
Okay.
on the clearing on the side of a loch. And the reindeer skin, I discovered, was quite spiky. It wasn't very comfortable. And I was wearing a wool tunic, which was coming really scratchy. And I was thinking, I'm going to have 3 days of uncomfortableness, but this is okay because this is experimental archaeology at its best. On the other side of this clearing by the loch, there's a woman in a leather tunic, and she's scraping at a raw cowhide.
Wow.
And she's in a leather tunic, and there's smoke wafting past me from a fire which is next to me, and around the fire there's some wet clay pots which are slowly drying out. And beyond the fire there's a group of men, and they're all arguing because they're trying to put together an iron smelting kiln which has never been built since the Iron Ages, and they're trying to recreate it and try and smelt some iron. So lots of debate going on. And next to them is a woodcarver who's sitting outside his tent, carefully crafting a bowl, and he's watching this log canoe paddling its way across the loch to the cranach. And the cranach is like a large round thatched building, and it's got a walkway out to it. It's sitting just off the shore of the loch. And there's people running around over on that side of the loch because they're getting ready for a 3-day living history experience. The reason why I was sitting there on my side of the loch, listening to the wood being chopped and the conversations, was because I'd been at the Cranach Centre a few weeks previously, and I'd been there so long they'd said, "Oh, are you still here? Oh, are you still here?" By about the 10th time, just before they closed, they asked us if we'd like to join them to do this weekend.
Yeah.
So we were in boots and all, and there was me in my Iron Age tunic sitting there under this shelter, and my companion for the day turns up and he tells me all about these pots that he's making, and this is what we're going to do to work with the public when they come in. I'm going to teach them how to make Iron Age pots.
Okay.
So there's me, this little Kiwi, sitting on my reindeer skin in my Iron Age outfit, making pots the way that they did in the Iron Age and teaching people how to do it.
Oh, wow.
It was such an awesome experience. And it just made me realise that, you know, I'm sitting on the land that my ancestors came from. I'm hearing the stories about them. I'm doing what they would have done in their normal day's life. And I was really connecting with my own heritage. So that's my little story.
Wow.
It was a wonderful experience. And it just inspires me to say to other people, learn about your heritage. It's an exciting journey. It's part of who you are and where you're going to go from now on.
Okay, that's fascinating.
So that's only one story. I've got heaps, but
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. That was really fascinating. Appreciate your time.
my pleasure. And I hope that people have a good experience when they come and see our heritage collection, because it really is a great treasure.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that was Mac.
Amazing.
She is the Heritage Librarian at Whangārei District Libraries. And she's just an example of how amazed I was when I first started working at the library. It's how smart some of my coworkers really are.
Truly.
And you are listening to The Shelf, a radio show for Whangārei District Libraries on Beagle Radio 88.1 FM.
And don't forget, you can follow Whangārei District Libraries on our social medias at Instagram, Facebook, and now YouTube, where this podcast will be going up.
I'd like to just do a little reading right now. This is a poem written by Gerald, and he is one of the guards at Whangārei Central Library, and it is called Judgmental Thoughts. Judgmental thoughts bestowed upon them into our hearts, whether friend or kin. Judgmental thoughts desist and descend, invoking the fears we hold within. Calm those waters and clear the sky. Judgmental thoughts no longer reside. That was Gerald.
That's so beautiful, and we're so lucky to have Gerald and our other guards at the library. They're such actually a friendly presence. And that was basically about, he told us that was about just the perception of youth these days and teenagers, and just come at them with an open and kind heart, basically.
And if I can just read just one more. This is a poem maybe you have heard. It is called Ozymandias, and it is by Percy Bysshe Shelley. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive. Stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed, and on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, in despair. Nothing beside them remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away." That was Ozymandias in 1819.
Wow, you read that so beautifully.
Oh, thank you. So, just a little trivia. Ozymandias is the villain, or Izzy, in The Watchmen. Oh, and Percy Shelley was the husband to Mary Shelley, who wrote a little book called Frankenstein. So, she might have had even a bigger effect on our culture.
Yeah.
And those works are all available at the library.
Yeah, definitely check out our poetry section in the 821s, I believe, upstairs in the non-fiction section.
And now, sadly, it is time to go off the shelf. We would like to just give a shout out to Beagle Radio for hosting us today, for helping us with the equipment and allowing us to use their lovely studio. And also at 116, tomorrow, Thursday, and also on Friday, there will be a play here called Orlando. The Fish Eats the Softest Parts First, which is
Great title.
Yeah, it's a great title. It sounds like it is a comedy. Check it out. And then on Saturday, there's a band playing called The Surge. And they are opening for The Fuzzies. So just to talk a little about both, The Surge are a band from Whangārei, and The Fuzzies are an indie band. I believe they've been around for a little while too. So they start on Saturday, the 16th.
There's always so much good stuff happening at 116, where there's such an awesome place to be and visit at Whangārei. So I would definitely keep an eye out on their website for any upcoming events. They're at 116.nz if you want to look it up online.
Yes, so that's ONEONESIX.NZ.
Cool. And I think we'll round up the show with a recommendation, a song rec from our children's librarian who you heard earlier, Mrs. Keyte. She recommends the classic Bohemian Rhapsody. So thanks for joining us today.
Yes, thank you very much. My name's Andy.
And I'm Karlie, and we'll see you next time.
And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, please, when we have the YouTube channel.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the skies and see. I'm just a poor boy, I need no sympathy, because I'm easy come, easy go, little high. Any way the wind blows doesn't really matter to me. Mama just killed a man, put a gun against his head, pulled my trigger, now he's dead. Mama, life had just begun, but now I've gone and thrown it all away. Mama, didn't mean to make you cry. If I'm not back again this time tomorrow, carry on, nothing really matters. Too late, my time has come. Sent shivers down my spine, body's aching all the time. Goodbye, everybody, I've got to go. Gotta leave you all behind and fade. Mama, wind blows, I don't wanna die. Sometimes wish I'd never been born at all. I see a little silhouette of a man. Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening me. Galileo, Figaro. I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me. He's just a poor boy from the poor family, sparing his life from this monstrosity. Easy come, easy go, will you let me go? Bismillah, no, we will not let you go. Let him go. Bismillah, we will not let you go. Let him go. Bismillah, we will not let you go. Will not let you go. Never, will not let you go. Oh, mamma mia, mamma mia. Mamma mia, let me go. Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me. For me, for me.